Have you ever wondered how to build a billion-dollar brand from scratch, especially in a cutthroat category like consumer goods? Today, we're about to find out. Hi, I'm Varun Duggirala, and this is Flipkart, the digital marketing podcast from Flipkart Ads. On this show, we speak to industry leaders from different parts of the digital marketing and marketing ecosystem and really understand how they build brands, connect with consumers, and really drive innovation in the way they connect with them and push towards sales. Today, we've got a fabulous guest joining us, Arindam Paul, the Chief Business Officer and founding member of one of India's fastest growing digital-first consumer brands, Atomberg. He's actually been a part of this business from a time when it was pre-revenue, there wasn't money coming in, but he, along with the team, kind of really built it up from there to the behemoth it is today. But we want to tap into all of that aspects of the way they've grown, of the way they build the brand, but also like really how they tap into the consumer and really push them towards purchase and marketing. Go do all of that today and get all the secrets out from him. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. And yes, we are not a behemoth yet.
That is you just being nice, but I'm going to let that one go. I want to first ask you that, when I look at Atomberg as a brand, right, there's a bunch of things that really stand out. And I think one of the key things that stands out is how innovation's at the core of the brand. Has that always been a core way to look at it?
Absolutely. So I think if you look at Atomberg's history, right, from 2000, we started in 2012. The first 2-3 years, in fact, we're not even doing fans. We're doing high-end technical things like building data acquisition system, a vehicle tracking system, supplied to institutions like DRDO, a lot of IITs, etc. But very soon we realized at that point that these things won't scale beyond a certain point. We had an expertise in motor technology, in BLDC motors, and fan as a category didn't see a lot of innovation. So we thought we might as well use technology to disrupt this category. And ever since, technology has been technology which solves real consumer problems, which brings in meaningful innovation. We differentiate it in two ways: engineers innovation and meaningful innovation. Engineers innovation is what tech geeks get together and keep doing some stuff. Meaningful innovation is when you do something which, say, helps a tier 3 town in Bihar, right? A student who's preparing for his class 10th exam and the power cut happens and you have to switch off your normal fan because you only have a normal inverter. And if you can make that fan last 3 times longer, instead of 1 hour in the fan can run 3 hours longer, I think that is meaningful innovation. Meaningful innovation is something that can help a middle class family save 1,500 rupees per year. So I think we've always been cognizant of the fact that let's use our expertise, which is technology in motors, in design, in electronics, in IoT smartness, to bring in meaningful innovation across categories for the evolving Indian consumer, because we always believed that the Indian consumer has been neglected for way too long, thrown products by global MNCs after they have been discarded from the countries where they're actually in their country of origin. So we thought the Indian consumer deserves better. And if we can use our technology to provide the meaningful innovation which makes a difference to their lives, it makes a lot of sense.
It's because it's in first thought, it's not the most supposed to be the most exciting category to go after. It even goes after what seems to be shiny either. So I'm guessing that, do you think that as one of the reasons why there wasn't a focus on innovation in this category till you guys got into it?
Maybe. I think so. We looked at it the other way around. We looked at it saying that this is a category which has not seen any innovation. I think one of the reasons for us entering fans as a category, as a first consumer category, was highly penetrated category, more than 95-96% penetration. The time you get electricity, the first thing that you get is a light and a fan in India. So every household will have a fan. Most of the households in India and most parts of the country. The second thing is the category didn't see any innovation because in most of the innovation that has been coming was, say, things like anti-dust, some paint, some incremental design innovation. Because no one actually looked at, because none of these were stated problems, right? People are saying it's a fan, right? A fan is a fan is a fan. But the moment so in fact our ethos is solving invisible problems. And that's the core of the brand. I think that's saying the problems which are not visible at first sight. So electricity bill was never a problem with fans as such. Before we said ki it can you reduce it by 65%, what you do today? You never thought that you need a remote to run a fan. People were okay going to the regulator, changing regulators every 5-6 years and all of this. People were okay with their fans running X amount in inverter when it could run 3X. People were okay with the older designs. But the moment you give them an option, then they realize that because the consumer preferences are changing across categories. And that was, in fact, one of the reasons why you got a category, because large category didn't see a lot of innovation. And because it's a fairly evolved category, manufacturing was also simpler. It was not something you're trying to do something totally new. You're just taking an existing category and disrupting it.
So how do you look at a problem saying this is something that we need to solve for a consumer in terms of this is something we need to add in, this is something we need to innovate around? How do you look at that?
Yeah. I think there are 2-3 things that we do, right? And any category that we enter, I think we work 2 things simultaneously. One thing is we look at a category, say for example, how large the category is, and we start thinking so we have 3-4 core expertise, right? Motors, IoT, design, saying what can be done better using our technology. That is one side of things that happens from the product side. On the second thing, we look at a lot of publicly available data. So say for example, there are many categories which doesn't have a single 4-star rated product. So all products will be rated 3.6, 3.7, 3.8. And if you go through the reviews, if you mind the reviews, you will find certain challenges. So some could be of poor quality, some could be this is missing, some could be. So that gives us a host of ideas saying these are pressing problems which you need to solve for. So for example, if you are thinking about say a cooktop, right? Maybe the cooking is not the problem, maybe cleaning is the problem. Or when you're talking about say a mixer, right? Maybe an unstated problem would be safety. A lot of people with kids and all, they have because the mixer can run. So and that's why in our mixer, we have a jar which has an auto detect. Till the time a jar is there, a motor will not run. So and now no one is going to, if you ask someone, right, like tell me what do you want in a mixer? I don't think anyone would be able to articulate that saying I need a mixer that doesn't run, because they don't know it is possible. So you look at things because this is a common instance, right? You have heard this multiple times of some mishap happening with the mixer, or some cooking or some cleaning issue happening with your chimney. You have a chimney, you are not able to clean it properly and all, right? So you look at those things, at the same time you look at what your technology can enable. And ideally you look to marry both of these two. Technology can enable 100 things, there are 100 problems to be solved. But if you have a Venn diagram, right? There will be an intersection of 3-4 things which your technology can solve for uniquely, and which the consumers also have a problem. And that's how we narrow down on problems.
It's interesting you said that the consumer also was kind of evolving, right? I want to double tap into that. How do you feel the consumer has evolved from, let's say, someone who would purchase anything in this category maybe like 10 years ago versus now? How do you think they've really changed in terms of not just like what they're looking for, but how they look for it?
Absolutely. I think that's been a big change. So today, it is not just about few very highly involved purchases which are evaluated. Today, most of the purchases that we make, even say categories like furniture, fans, or anything, right? More and more of these categories have now become evaluated purchases. The reason being, with e-com being there and with with geo-democratizing internet, right? You have an internet in your phone and you have a lot of time. So anything and everything that you are buying, I think a lot of evaluation happens. So I think that's been the fundamental change. And what the change has also done is categories which were traditionally such that, for example, you would not think about it. You just go to the shop and you'd say, "Mere ko pankha de do, give me a fan." Now, the power across categories are moving from the brands and the channel to the consumer. Because today there is no longer any information asymmetry. Within half an hour, you can research every category. You want to buy a spec, you can research everything. Just today we're discussing about buying perfume, right? If you want to buy a perfume, you can read out everything about it. You can watch hundreds of videos on YouTube, you can watch hundreds of reviews. So the consumer is more educated. The consumer has more options to become educated. 20 years back, it was not possible, right? The only thing was you had to go to your electrician or to the shopkeeper, or you had to rely on what the brands were saying on national media. Like that were the only 3-4 things which were the sources of information. I think that because the information sources have increased and because internet is well and truly democratized across the country, the power has shifted from the brand and the channel, that is the distributors and the dealers, to the consumer. And that has changed the landscape of a lot of categories, fans being one of them. And we were very early in identifying this trend in 2015-16.
What also happens with, this shift of power from, from manufacturing, from distribution to the consumer is that suddenly anybody kind of launches a product, or even the established players are there, the competitiveness really goes to another zone. How do you kind of maintain your edge in that space?
Yeah. So I think again, you need to keep innovating for the consumer. The day you stop innovating, I think in today's market, you will not be able to survive. So I think gone are the days when you say ki just because I have 50,000 retailers, I'm going to win. Today, if someone disrupts you with a better product, with a better proposition, they are going to win sooner or later. So I think you need to keep innovating for the consumer, keep figuring out what the next thing is that the consumer is looking for. Some of them will be stated needs, some of them will be unstated needs, which we'll have to understand, speaking to consumers, understand what they aspire for. And I think that's the only way to remain relevant for any consumer brand at this point.
How do you look at brand building? Because especially the brand like us, I think there's something really strong about how you built your brand. It's built on strong, it has a strong reputation. There's certain resonance that comes in a consumer's head. How has that process been? How you kind of, has there been a step by step? Okay, we looked at it initially like this, but it's evolved to this now.
So I have a very clear framework of brand. So brand consists of two parts. One is brand awareness and the other is the brand associations or attributes, right? Now, brand awareness is a function of time and money. So if you are a brand which has been in existence for 100 years, people will know you because they would have used you. Or if you are a brand that is spending 1,000 crores every year buying IPL teams, like doing N number of things, right? People will know you in a very short amount of time. So I think let's leave aside that part. And the other part is the brand attribute. This is the more difficult part. So when you think about brand attributes or associations, right? Again, there are two parts. One is how clear internally are you about who you are? That is the core of the brand, right? And I think that needs to be defined very early in the journey. The second part is when do you start communicating? Now, that has its own time because your budget will always be a constraint, right? And I've always been a big believer of this saying that sales overnight, brand over time. So if you do not have sales, if you do not have consumers, you cannot build a brand. So for the first 3-4 years, what we focused from the brand side is we're very clear what the brand stands for. The brand always stood for innovation. The brand always stood for solving invisible problems. And the brand line, why not, always is about questioning status quo of how things are done. So I think that was always clear. But I think we took a long time to communicate it. And we don't, even today, a lot of our communication is product centric. Because we truly believe if we get enough consumers who are using the product, who are getting the experience after using the brand, the associations are going to be built automatically. So for the first 3-4 years, what we did was we did only two things. One is do a lot of performance marketing, do a lot of retail marketing, get consumers to use your brand. On the offline side, do a lot of BTL, do a lot of in-shop branding, be very visible within the shop where consumers make a decision and let consumers experience the product. The second thing that we did in the first 4-5 years was give exceptional after-sales service. In fact, in a category like us, where after-sales service is a reality, right from installation to if anything goes wrong with the product, we said, unlike every other brand in our category, we look at after-sales service as a part of marketing. So right from day one, service used to report to marketing. And in most organizations, service report to operations.
Yeah.
Service is seen as cost center. Here it was seen as an investment. So, and we gave exceptional service. And today, I think that is the result why our fans are the best rated fans on every marketplace. Our fans have the highest NPS. Our fans have the highest word of mouth, which is there. So this we did for 4 or 5 years. Once we reached a certain scale, then the focus shifted towards building certain kind of mental associations, right? And that is where I'm a very strong believer that you need to pick up 2-3 things and you need to consistently keep harping the same things.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in consistency rather than saying ki I'll do something new every year. So we said ki we'll build 2-3 distinctive assets. So in all our ads, we have these 2 characters, Atom and Berg, who are there in the brand colors. I think our logo is very distinctive. So we use that a lot of times. It's again yellow and black that stands out.
Yeah.
So on brand building, the focus has been you build 2-3 distinctive assets. You take 2-3 lines of communication. One line is of course the product side, which is saying the product is the best in energy efficiency, is the best in smartness. I think 2-3 product benefits and features. And on the overall thematic side, the associations around technology, the associations around innovation have been built through content, through media, and all of that. I think so. That's been the brand building journey over the last 10 years. Because you cannot go into emotional messaging or more higher order messaging till the time people use it, right? Till the time people already know about Atomberg.
Yeah.
So the first objective, even today, right, our awareness levels are nowhere close to what it would be there for any of the market leaders. So the first objective would be people should know that Atomberg exists. The second thing is people should know what the product does. The third thing would be what Atomberg stands for. I think in that order.
You just mentioned benefits. What do you see the problem as overstating of benefits are?
So for example, our fans make the least noise. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But we never call our fans as noiseless fans. Because the moment I say noiseless fans, the expectation is it will not make any noise and we'll never be able to deliver and then there'll be negative reviews. The repercussion of overselling on the benefits is negative reviews. So one of the key things that we've always followed is we'll undercommit and over-deliver. We never call out noiseless. Even our mixers are the least noise-making mixers. But we'll never call it, because if someone wants to grind haldi, of course it's going to make noise.
Yeah.
And you cannot do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I think that was the point I was making.
That's a good way to look at it. And I also kind of feel, this is something to learn for every category. You have to look at how that order is from a consumer lens as well. You mentioned media and content. How do you look at the mix of those two in terms of how to connect with the consumer?
So I think on the content front, right? So we have been doing a lot of things, and very recently what we've also done is we've shot a small series of episodes.
Yeah.
These are basically interactions between a husband and a wife, where more playful, and it involves day-to-day interactions with the fan.
Yeah.
So some of them will involve the fan being remote controlled. So the wife sees the remote as a bane, the husband tells it's a boon.
Yeah.
And then she ultimately realizes it's a boon. Yeah. And similarly, the fact that the fan is voice controlled, the wife is like, why do we need so many tech-enabled gadgets? Don't we already have enough of it? And then at the end, she realizes it's actually really beneficial. And when her parents come, they also appreciate it. They also show it off to their friends and all. So those are the kind of content which we have been doing of late.
So looking at this mix and look at how we look at content and look at how you even use media, D2C is a category that is often spoken about saying, how do you crack D2C in India? How do you look at it as a combination of an omni-channel approach versus how to display into it? You've seen a fair amount of success in this thing. What do you kind of see, where do you see this right now? Because there are always too many conversations about D2C happening in parallel. And where do you see it kind of going?
Yeah. So I think D2C is here to stay. And I look at D2C as much more than a sales channel. So it's not just about selling directly to consumers. I think having a fully functional D2C website also lets you tell your story in a much better way. You are able to tell your purpose, why you exist. You can tell the brand story at a much deeper level, like what the brand stands for. You can do a lot of pilots. You can do a lot of small launches. You can do limited launches, new edition launches, understand the feedback. And that's how we have been using D2C for the last. We started off with D2C, right? Then we moved on to retail marketplaces, and then we moved to general trade. Today, D2C, although it contributes less than 5% of our sales, but it's very strategic because it allows you to test so many things. It allows you to test what communication resonates with consumer. It allows you to test any new category. Say, for example, you're launching mixer grinder. For the first 3 months, we did only D2C. Got the initial feedback, what's happening, pros, cons, and then take it to the other channel. Because you control that channel very closely, right? And I think, more or less, as brands go multi-channel, I think you need to be there when the consumer is there. And not everyone is going to come buy from your D2C website. I don't think the economics at scale will work if you are a D2C only brand because of the cost of the CPMs will keep on rising, right? On both the walled garden of Facebook or the open internet that Google has. So I don't think the economics in running a D2C brand alone will make sense. But if you use D2C strategically, if you use D2C for your launches, for your loyalists, for your repeats, to test out different communication, different landing pages, etc. I think it's a must-have channel. And this is where a lot of legacy brands struggle because they are not that close to consumer that a brand like ours or any of the new age brands will be, right? So we understand trends much better. We are able to identify trends much better because the interactions with consumers happen almost on a daily basis, which is what D2C allows you, which nothing else allows you.
You spoke about how legacy brands look at everything from general trade versus D2C and how you kind of strategized around that. How do you see marketplaces play in this? Because marketplaces give you another unique opportunity within this entire ecosystem.
So in fact, marketplaces have been very integral to Atomberg's growth. So we started off with D2C, moved to marketplaces, dominated marketplaces, and only then we moved to general trade. And it's very critical because of two things, right? One is more and more searches in a lot of categories begin on marketplaces. So there is no option of not being on marketplaces. And the second thing is the marketplaces brands like Flipkart have spent a lot of money and built a lot of capabilities, the supply chain capabilities, the back-end capabilities to build trust amongst a large mass of India. And so naturally, consumers, the trust level that they have while buying from marketplaces is much higher than compared to, say, buying from a D2C website. The experience in terms of logistics and all is also much better. So today, someone like a Flipkart would be able to give you one-day delivery for most categories across most pin codes. Now, that is something which would be unthinkable for D2C brand, for young D2C brands, right? So it's an extremely critical part of the piece. And in marketplaces, again, it's very simple. The equation comes down to very simple. Saying sales is equal to number of people who are visiting your listing multiplied by conversion. So again, there are levers to improve, to get people on your page. And say there are different options, right? Say, for example, if I take the example of Flipkart, right? So you would have your search wherein people come and search for the category, search for different brands. Then there will be your mark, which will be basically your display, your category display. And then I think offline, they've also built a very strong product recommendation, which is more personalized basis, your different. You get, through these three things, you get people on your page, right? On the product page. And then there are levers to optimize conversions. You ensure that your stock is very well replicated across all warehouses so that 24 to 48 hour delivery happens. You ensure that your listings are perfect. It's very important not to over communicate benefits. A lot of people do it, right? They oversell benefits. So we always undersell benefits. But you need to tell very clearly why should people buy you? You need to be at the right price, the right offers, all of this. So, but if you're able to do these two things, and we track these two very sincerely, we don't even track overall numbers. We say how many people came to the page and what has been the conversion.
Yeah.
And every month, at the end of every month, saying to grow further, what do I grow? Do I grow conversion or do I have to grow traffic? And the outcome is also very different. If you have a traffic problem and you try to solve for conversion, you are not going to end up anywhere. If you have a conversion problem and you are bringing more and more traffic through different ads and all, again, you will not be. So you need to figure out which is the problem for you, solve that problem, and then again, you move back. And at some point, marketplaces are also compounding channels. The reason is, as your ratings and reviews keep on increasing, right, your conversion rates go up. So the conversion rate that today Atomberg would have on a marketplace will be way, way higher than what Atomberg had 3 years back, even though our prices would have gone up every year because of inflation. And today there will be much more competition also in the category. So that's how I think the marketplaces are extremely critical for digital first brands, especially if the category is big on marketplace, which for a category like us is, and which is true for most categories.
Another way to really interact with the consumer is through, let's say, influencers or creators, right? How does that play into the mix for you?
We haven't done a lot of it. I think what we have done with creators, again, we did more of the educative content. Because we're trying to create categories, we're trying to create new category codes. We did it in fans, we're trying to do it in mixers. So for example, say in mixers also, it's a very similar story. So no one associates a mixer for taste. People use a mixer for convenience. But we strongly believe that a mixer is very important for the ultimate taste of the product because it decides the texture of your masalas, your chutneys, etc. And texture plays a very important role in taste. So again, now we will be working very closely with chefs to educate people about this. The same thing we did in tech, with tech influencers, with fans, right? Where people were not aware about BLDC fans, what BLDC motor does, what it stands for. So I think we use creators as well as like influencers more to educate consumers about a thesis which we have a very strong belief in.
You used the term educate a few times. I think that's, for me, that's always been the biggest shift, is that there was a time before D2C, before you could actually buy, any product online, is that, you generally would rely on the person in the store to kind of give you some information and you would buy it or wherever it was available. Do you feel the consumer today wants to know more, is actually open to being educated than before?
Absolutely. So today, even in a category like us, right, when a consumer goes to the store, by that time, he has a set of 2-3 brands or products that he wants to buy. You don't see open-ended queries even in stores saying कि मेरे को एक fan दे दो. Today they is very clear, मेरे को Atomberg Renaissance ये color ये size दे दो. And this we have seen across categories. I mentor a lot of startup founders, operators, etc. And this we have seen across categories where people go and they ask for what they need. And this is why I think educating people, I think a lot of brands do it very well in food. I think you have a lot of this food who are educating people, right, about the harmful effects of sugar, which is good, right? I think, and we have seen a healthy shift happen. Like a lot of people don't consider alcohol cool. This was not imaginable 10 years back, right? So this has happened because of a lot of this content, and we're a good part of social media, a good part of, I think, what social media allows.
How has your own journey been across Spirit? Right? You came in at a time when it was super early, just before you even got into any form of launch. To know how you've seen yourself kind of evolve.
No, I think it's been like almost 9 years now. So I joined pre-revenue 2015. I was the only business person at that point of time. So the first year was, I did everything. So, and that's why I'm very hands-on. So even today you tell me, open an e-com marketplace, list a product, I'll be able to do it. If you tell me run Facebook ads, I'll be able to do it. So I ran Facebook ads, I ran all kind of ads, I listed all kind of products. I did a lot of B2B sales. In the initial days, a lot of B2B sales were there. So the first 2-3 years were this. I think the first 3-4 years were just about surviving. I think there was only one KPI, survive till the next year.
Yeah.
So doing this survival bit, I think by 2019, we had reached around 50-60 crores.
Right.
And that's when we had gotten into GT. So that's when I started building. So even in GT, I did a lot of the hard bit. So when we launched in Bombay for the first year, I used to go at shops and stand there and sell the fans myself. And I did it for a longish time. So every Sunday evening, I used to be in a shop for 4 hours trying to pitch the product to consumers.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of learning about what consumers want, what consumers prefer. And I used to take the same learnings back saying, this is the pitch that worked.
Yeah.
Let me put it as a performance creative. Or let me put it as my content on my e-com page because this pitch works.
Yeah.
So a lot of those things happened. So I think I started off by doing everything and developed deep expertise in e-com and digital from 2015 to 19. Learned it all on the job. I think everything was available. All the resources are available.
Yeah.
And 2019 onwards gotten very deep into the general trade side of things. And general trade and overall brand building through retail and all of this. So I think that's been a very, very steep learning curve.
So if you had to kind of break down the key lessons you learned over this period, what would those be?
I think in each there will be different these things, right? Say for example, in the first phase, right, 2015 to 2018, I think this was all about understanding how consumer journeys work and how you need to tweak there's no one size fit all. Even in performance, there's no one size fit all. So we figured out that the category was such that people have a consideration set in mind. Then there's the evaluation phase. During the evaluation phase, you need to come in front of the consumer. You need to tell you exist, why you exist, what you do better than competition. And then at the point of purchase, you need to win. So I think we perfected this in the first 3-4 years to win at each point of the consumer journey, be it at the initial consideration set, be it at the evaluation phase, and be it at the point of purchase. I think that was one big thing. Second big learning was you take one market at a time. And because you have limited resources, right? And there's a lot of time saying, I have limited budgets, what do I do? If you have limited budgets, limited time, limited bandwidth, limited leadership bandwidth, do one thing at a time. So when we started General Trade, we did Bombay for a year. Only Bombay, nothing else. When we started ATL, we did only the 4 southern states for a year. Because the moment you pick your battles, then I think you are at equal ground with competition because they are doing throughout the country and you are picking your battle. And so it's very important not to spread yourself too thin. I think that was a big overarching learning over the last 3-4 years. And the third learning was, of course, that brand compounds and distribution compounds. So it gets easier with time. Opening the first 100 counters is the more difficult thing. From 100 to 1000 is relatively easier.
Yeah.
Getting to 15-20% like awareness is difficult.
Yeah.
But if you're able to crack that, it gets easier. Getting to 2% market share is difficult.
Yeah.
But getting from 2 to 10% is relatively easier. So if you're persevering, it needs, I think, both distribution and marketing. I think both of this need a lot of perseverance. If you're able to persevere in both of this, I think it compounds. And that's been a big, big learning in the last decade or so.
No, you mentioned that, you would spend time in the store and you take that and move it to a performance side. Yeah. Do you kind of feel that learnings you have, let's say, in an offline interaction with the consumer, helps you in, let's say using Flipkart ads and you kind of, you're targeting the consumer. Do you feel it really helps take that learning and does it transcend from physical to digital?
Absolutely. And it does the vice versa as well.
Yeah.
Say, for example, if a performance creative works well for you, that becomes a part of a training deck for our sales executives. Saying, when you go to the shop, you tell this thing. This is the order. A retailer will not remember 10 things, but these are the 2 most important things that you need to tell. So in the early days, right, one of the things was no one used to come asking for Atomberg because the awareness was very low.
Yeah.
So, but we realized, because we used to have a call center as well, and we realized whenever we asked consumers, what kind of fans do you need? Do you need a normal fan or a 5-star fan?
Yeah.
People used to say 5-star fan. So that became the hook that I trained my retailers as well. Whenever someone comes, You think the consumer is a premium consumer, looks, feels premium. Just ask him this question. Do you need a normal fan or a 5-star fan?
Yeah.
The moment he says 5-star fan, it becomes very easy for you to introduce Atomberg, saying this is the best 5-star rate fan and so on and so forth. So both the ways. Similarly, the learning that you get from a retail shop, right? What kind of communication works. Even today, every month, the first day, the entire organization is in a shop, some shop, trying to sell ourselves. We call it a customer connect activity. It gives us a pulse of what is happening with the consumers, what the consumers are thinking, what the choices are, why are they buying, why are they not buying, what are the triggers, what are the barriers. Sometimes it's also about addressing barriers. Sometimes people will not buy saying, I really love the fan, but you know what, you don't have this 900 mm size. I need 6 fans, but I need one smaller size fan, and I need all the fans of the same design. But because you don't have the smaller size fan, I'll not buy your brand, I'll buy something else. So that gives an input for the product team, saying, I need to build this range.
Yeah.
The same, that's what. So any consumer interaction, if you're able to distill the insights and pass it on to your marketing, whether it's a retail marketing or a digital or your overall ATL or to the product team, I think that gives a lot of dividends.
Yeah. What advice would you give for someone who say is looking to create, a disruptive brand and to be as successful as you guys are? What would your piece of advice be?
So I think I'll go back to the very basics. So if you have all the 4 P's right, you will win. So you need a product and the price, which is a very strong proposition. So without a strong proposition, you cannot win in today's world. A lot of people still stay in that zone saying, and you'll give the example of Coke, right? See how Coke has become so big selling sugared water.
Yeah.
You cannot build a brand selling sugared water in today's world.
Agreed.
So you need a product at the right price, which becomes a very strong proposition, right? The next thing is you need to be present where the consumer is present in the long run. And you need to figure out a bridge to that. If the consumers are buying from modern trade counters, you need to be present in modern trade. If the consumers are buying from Kirana stores, the 80% of your sales in your category happens from Kirana stores, you need to be present in Kirana stores at some point of time. So the second is again, the distribution part. You need to be present where the consumers are present. Without it, you cannot build a really large brand. And the third is on the advertising bit. I think you need to be consistent. You brand compounds over time. You start earning. So brand is like a S-curve, both in terms of association as well as in terms of awareness. It will not give you immediate results, but it will give you significant results over a long period of time. And till the time you reach there, you focus on performance marketing, because again, sales overnight, brand over time. Without sales, you will not live long enough to build a brand. So if you're able to focus on these 3 in 4 P's, right? Product, price, place, and promotions, which we all learned during our MBA days, it's back to the very basics. And sometimes we forget the basics. Sometimes we think that marketing is all about advertising, or marketing is all about media. But advertising is only, say, 12.5% of marketing.
Yeah.
If you take all the 4 P's, and even within promotions, you have media and you have creatives, right?
Yeah.
So you should not get too obsessed about creatives or this thing, and look at marketing more holistically. And if you are able to solve for all the 4 P's, I think that's the tried and tested method of success. And I don't see that changing ever.
Thank you so much, Arindam. I think it's been like a mini MBA, as some of us have said in the background, for anyone who wants to build a new age brand to kind of really disrupt an established category. Thanks so much for coming on Flipkart and for sharing all the knowledge that you've gained over this journey.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Flipkart. You can catch more episodes of Flipkart on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. So till next time, keep Flipkasting.